Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Yana, do me a favor and take that very dangerous coffee and stick it up there. Otherwise, we all know what happens. Thank you. Thank you. Let me tell you what we're going to do really quickly today. The first thing I want to do is make sure that you're set up for the weekend's homework. And then what we're going to do is get together in cooperative groups. We're going to have you review reading from last night, and then we're going to pick up from there and look at some issues from the Jackson era. We're going to begin with this. Go to the next blank page in your notebook. This is one of your 2 weekend assignments. And it's very simple. I want you to profile 6 American political leaders from this period. And I'll show you where to find them in just a minute. But go ahead and write down the directions. You're going to draw 6 boxes. You can do that now, you can do it later, but if you're going to draw the boxes, don't make this an engineering project, please. Just go ahead and do it quickly or save it till later. But you want 6. For each one, you're going to write the person's name. You're going to write one good complete sentence about this person's significant actions. In other words, why are you profiling this person 150 years later? The last thing, of course, you're going to do is you're going to draw a picture of what they look like. You can do that in pencil. I will give you extra credit for good artwork. And what you may have figured out is at age 16, you actually have much better fine motor skills than you did when you were in kindergarten and you had trouble getting your pen on the paper and little details like that. So you can consider that, but come up with a likeness. All right? Go ahead and copy the directions. I'm going to take attendance real quickly. Keep your notebooks out. We're going to be using them, but I want you to go to your unit sheet for chapter 8 and 9. Go to the bottom of the unit sheet and find the list of people. Everybody see it? There are 7. Cross out John Quincy Adams. If you feel bad for him, you can still do his profile on top of the other 6. But the other 6 are the ones that you want to focus on. And these are actually 6 people who dominated American politics for 30 to 40 years, all the way up to 1850. And so those are the ones that you want to profile. Now go to the handout that is on your desk, which refers to this website. This assignment is just about analyzing the role of the media in this particular presidential election. What you're looking at is a site called Real Clear Politics. It's a content aggregator. Anybody here know what a content aggregator is? From where?
From various sources from around.
Right. If you look at the list in the middle, that's what I want you to be looking at this weekend. In red, you have the titles of a number of articles from a number of sources. And look at the list of sources on the right-hand side. What kind of sources do you think those are? Tell your partner real quick. What do you think they are? Raise your hand if you recognize any of those sources, if you've ever seen one of them before. Good. Here's the thing. What you're going to find out when you start reading articles is that some of those sources are going to have a decided viewpoint on what's going on in this election. Those who've been watching TV, you've probably figured some of that out already. So my challenge to you is this. What I want you to do this weekend is poke around in that list of titles and read some of them. And then I want you to report back on 3. I would like to see if you can find what you consider to be a neutral site, one that doesn't seem to have a bias in any political direction. I'd like you to find a source that appears to have a bias towards the Democratic Party, the Clinton campaign, and one that would appear to have a bias toward the Trump campaign, and or the Republican Party, or maybe only one of those, this being a complicated election, right? So you need to read what the writer is actually saying, and you need to key in on sentences that give you clues as to what bias that writer might have. What I am also going to tell you, and this is going to make it a little more difficult, is some of these sources are very well respected newspapers, news magazines, and they may be sources that people know have a political bias, but what you may be reading is a pretty straightforward job of reporting and analysis of what's actually going on in the election. All right? I'm not going to tell you which sites are which. You get to figure it out. Mr. Wilkinson and I could probably go down this list and give you a pretty good idea of what the bias of all of those sites is. Okay? So you know what the job is? You're going to do 3. Directions are on the top, place for 1 in the front, place for 2 on the back. So far so good? Okay. That's the homework. Here's what we're going to do next. We're going to do the rest of our work today in cooperative groups, and I want to mix it up. So we're going to count off by 4s. Ready? Here.
1, 2,
4. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
3.
4,
1,
2, 3, 1, 2, 3,
1,
2,
1, 2, 3,
4.
1, 2.
Here's what you're going to do next. You're going to take your notebook and your pen, and you're going to form cooperative groups of no more than 4 people, no fewer than 3. There should be no more than 8 groups. Is everybody clear on that? And you are in a group with people who have the same number that you do. Do you still remember your number?
Yeah.
Good. See if you can find either 3 other people or 2 other people with the same number. Find someone from the opposite sex, excuse me. Here's today's formative assessment. You ready? Here are your 3 directions in terms of putting your groups together. Everybody's in desks facing each other. One person is going over to the table where Mr. Wilkinson is sitting, and you have to pick up 2 handouts. On the right-hand side of the table there is a handout that says episode map. You need to get enough for the members of your group. On the left of Mr. Wilkinson is a set of numbered readings. Get the number that belongs to you and your group, get enough for everybody in the group. Everybody know what the assessment is? Any mark? Get set, go.
Madison's the other.
One more minute. One more minute.
What number are you at?
40 seconds.
Okay, there we go.
15 seconds. Zero. Check with your group members and see how you did. This is worth 3 points. Number 1, all your desks are facing each other. Number 2, you have enough episode maps for everybody. Number 3, you have readings for everybody. Give yourself a score out of 3. All right. The first thing I'm going to have you do is some review of last night's homework. We're going to start out by having you do this. Decide who your group facilitator is, your group questioner. Pick that person, have that person stand up. Pick the group facilitator, have that person stand up. Group facilitators, you ready for the directions? Here's how we're going to review part 1. You are going to hand your notes in your notebook to the person to your left. And you're going to direct everybody in your group to hand their notebooks to the person to their left. Then you're going to start the first part of the review. The first part of the review is you are going to ask one of the cue questions from the notebook from the person to your right. You're going to have that person answer it. If they get stuck, you're going to prompt them. And then it's going to go to your left. So the person to your left is going to ask you one of your cue questions and so forth. I want you going around either 2 or 3 times. We're going to give you 5 minutes to review. The next step is that you're going to have your group summarize your reading to each other. You're not looking at your notebooks, you're looking at your group members. Go around 1 time and see if you can get 5 sentences and summarize the reading. Can you mark this next one? We got a problem. We're going to learn you some theater.
Yes.
Draft for this week.
I've been drafting.
How did that electoral?
Oh.
He was.
Anyway, with property requirements, I think is one of them. And then
Kind of like what Avery said.
he was like a leader.
It was for Rhode Island.
Yeah. Okay. And then they failed.
One guy, Sandra
Why don't we start for summer? I was actually the title president.
he was tied
Yeah,
with
Marty
you,
Ford.
so he started to go. But he turned himself in. He's not ready to reject.
So like I just weren't allowed on there.
So basically, Thomas Stern was from Rhode Island, and he basically tried to draft a new constitution for Rhode Island. But it was turned in, and there was these 2 people saying like, no, this constitution is right, but the other group, Thomas Stern, was like, no, this is right. And at the end, they tried to infiltrate an arsenal. They failed in
Thomas Stern, he surrendered. So the ballot was like kind of put down very quickly.
Okay, I'll ask a question. Who was yeah. And then also you wrote the Democratic Like, no, yes, they were not. The Democratic And then
How is the first political party formed?
And at this point, if you are finished going through your notes, then go ahead and summarize each other. Don't look at your notes. Look at your group numbers. Summarize. This is what Victoria said. See if you can add on. Best academic language.
Andrew Jackson.
And now you are going to write a summary in your partner's notebook. 3 to 4 sentences total. You got that? Not for each part. 3 to 4 sentences total. Look at the first part of the question. Look at the second part of the question. Decide as a group how you think you can answer that. And then go ahead and write your summary. I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to do that in your partner's notebook.
No, we read something.
Don't worry quite as much about the second part. You probably will either figure it out pretty quickly or you won't. But see if you can come up with a good common sense answer first and then send a runner to another group and find out what they know.
He had a party and he invited everyone.
So you want to put that Oh, wait.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the next part. Let me get your eyes over where I am if you can, please. Here's the next task, and we're going to start this one. We're not going to finish it today, but you should be able to get, I would say, between about half and 60% of it done. What you're going to do is you're going to research one major national issue that occurred during Jackson's presidency. And today's job is to become an expert in that issue, because on Monday you're going to do a jigsaw and you are going to get together with different numbers from all the groups, and you have to teach those people what you know. You have to teach it to them well, because they will be taking a test on it based on what you told them. In other words, you don't want to screw it up, because then it'll be your fault. No pressure. So remember your number on your episode map. If you're number 1, on the top above episode map, write number 1. Write the bank war. If you're number 2, above the title where it says episode map, write nullification. If you're number 3, you're going to write party politics. And if you are a number 4, you're going to write the Trail of Tears. Here's what the episode map does for you. If you're going to either understand history or explain it to anyone else, you really have to understand that you are telling a story. That's not necessarily a skill everybody has, but what the episode map can do is break it down for you so you can do that. So let me show you the different parts of this. here's how you start. Up in the left-hand corner, what you are doing is you're setting the time and the place. Who's ever gone to the movies? If it's any kind of historical story, often the first thing you're going to see on the screen is where and when. So when you start reading, that's one of the first things you're going to do. Find out where, if that matters. And in actually 3 of these, this is kind of a national discussion, so you have to decide what where means. But you also have to figure out when. When is this? Give a year. By the end of your reading, you should be able to figure out how long this story went on for. That's duration. All right? Here's the thing you have to do next. Start with what happened before, what caused this whole thing. And the analogy I'm going to give you has to do with something that can happen in your house. Raise your hand if you have a sibling. And raise your hand if something like this has ever happened. There are loud noises from your room. A parent comes rushing in, and you and some sibling are rolling around the floor trying to scratch each other's eyes out. That has happened at your house. What's the first thing your parent wants to know? Who started this? What caused it? That's what you're doing here. Play parent for a little bit. Realize maybe you don't want to do that much. But figure out what the causes of this issue are going to be. What came first? What set this up? All right? The next thing you're going to do then is the sequence of events. What happened first? What was the first action someone took? What happened next? What happened next? And in the end then, of course, what was the resolution of this? Like any play you've had to study in English. But further than that, you have to also talk about what are the long-term effects going to be on the US of A. So if you're the question leader, the facilitator, I want you to look at this list. The first thing you're going to try and figure out, maybe the first 3 or 4 minutes, is what was the issue conflict? What set this off? What started it? Time, place. Then you're going to work on the sequence of events. That's probably what you're going to spend most of your time on next. Your exit ticket is that top left-hand corner, and I would say 60% of your sequence of events. If you get to the end, then of course, how was the conflict resolved? Right? And then what happened afterwards? The epilogue, as it were. You ready? Mark, get set. Go ahead. One quick suggestion, do not try and read the whole reading at once. Read chunks of it. What's the first thing you're trying to figure out? Start with A. The wigs and also the soil system. So that's what you're going to focus. You're going to be explaining the rise of Who's number 1? Before you know where to start? Let's see. Who's doing nullification? You're going to start at the front of your reading with the narrative of abomination. You guys know what an abomination It's Bible language. The third book of the Bible. So somebody's talking about it. Let's find out. everything that you do is. So if you have people calling something a tariff for the foundation, that's where your story begins. It's something terrible. Over here is these causes. And depending on how many you have, you can use one circle, you can use two circles if you want.
And then the sequence is
Right. So figure out what's starting this, what's kicking it all off, and then walk through the sequence.
okay, thank you. There's this tear off on stuff. We don't like it, and then Jackson inherited that issue.
Good. You have most of it.
18 left. Beginning 218. Yeah, 32.
This election is an abomination.